In the news tonight, Fiji stops USP funding. Our elderly are hesitant, says Ministry of Health. And FEMAT working on maritime plans.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Uluwinaka, Fiji. Attorney General Ayaz Sayed Kayum has told Parliament that the Fijian government will not make any funding contribution to the University of the South Pacific. Sayed Kayum says given the gravity of the allegations of serious mismanagement against Professor Paul Ahluwalia, who he referred to as the former VC, in his ministerial statement, no funding will be given to USP until such time as a new VC is appointed. Sayed Kayum has labelled the appointment of Professor Ahluwalia illegal.
The Attorney General says they want all the alleged breaches against the professor to be investigated further independently.
Fiji does not accept Ahluwalia as the Vice-Chancellor and will not provide any funding or assistance to USP for as long as he remains the supposed Vice-Chancellor.
Sayed Kayum says they are also considering options to recommend to the Prime Minister to have a commission of inquiry into USP. He highlights that ever since the appointment of Professor Ahluwalia in January 2019, there have been serious allegations of mismanagement and failure to adhere to principles of good governance, established rules and procedures of USP.
And it signals a concerning complacency with a record of mismanagement, nepotism, cronyism, poor financial accountability, and in some instances, Mr. Speaker, sir, outright fraud by the former VC that risks staining the USP's legacy.
National Federation Party leader Professor Biman Prasad says USP has a governance structure and a council which has representatives from different countries to deal with issues.
And when there is an issue in the university, whether it was to do with corruption by the former senior management before Vice-Chancellor Paul Ahluwalia came to the university, or any other issue, you have to go through the governance structure of the university. That is why it's a regional institution.
The government says in just 2 years under Ahluwalia's charge, 50 years of achievements have been put into dire jeopardy, and Fiji was not alone in opposing the reappointment. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
The Ministry of Health has noted a lot of hesitancy in the elderly population of the Western Division in accepting the current situation. Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong says this is causing problems in treating severely ill patients because people are refusing to ask for help. The 7-day rolling average for COVID-19 deaths per day in the Western Division stands at 6. Kritika Kumar reports.
The Permanent Secretary says the increasing number of COVID-19 deaths is concerning, with the majority being above the age of 50.
That there is a lot of hesitancy amongst the elderly population, and they are the ones that are more affected. There seems to be a prevailing view that because the elderly population do not go out, therefore do not leave the house, therefore they are less likely to get the virus.
Since the beginning of the outbreak, the ministry has been urging younger people to look after the elderly and adhere to all the protocols.
We have mentioned a number of times, even if the elderly person doesn't go out of the house, all you need is the young people to go in and out of the house to bring the virus in.
Dr. Fong says people are not forthcoming to get tested once they develop COVID symptoms. The Minister for Health has reassured they have not stopped the COVID-19 testing and contact tracing.
Now that testing strategy happens on the symptomatic and the vulnerable. The teams are receiving results in 24 hours.
According to the ministry, more people who are dying are above the age of 50, whereas the oldest COVID-19 death in Fiji was 102 years old. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
And with deaths occurring daily, we've also been told that there's been a death on Kandavu due to COVID-19. Apanisa Wangairandovu joins us live now. Apanisa, what have you gathered from Kandavu?
Edwin, the Kandavu patient is a 63-year-old woman from Rakiraki village in Niale. The Ministry of Health has also highlighted the unfortunate passing of the patient who died upon arrival at the Vunisea Hospital on Tuesday, confirmed by the attending medical officer. Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Health, Dr. James Fong, also highlighted that the family of the deceased had confirmed that she had shown symptoms and signs of COVID-19 prior to dying from the virus, and she was then later swabbed and tested positive for the virus. Dr. Fong has also stated that early investigations have indicated that the patient or the deceased came into contact with individuals who had traveled unauthorized from Suva to Kadabu, and also highlighting that an investigation is now being carried out regarding this matter. A response team is now in Kadabu to investigate the case and conducting public health investigations as well as testing and quarantine of contacts. The ministry is calling on maritime islanders not to entertain or to engage in unauthorized travel from Viti Levu to outer islands, as this may or can somehow cause the virus to go into our outer islands. A travel suspension has also been imposed for Kadabu, effective from today until next Tuesday. Edwin.
Nakal Panisa. The head of Fiji's Emergency Medical Assistance Team will be working with the Ministry of Transport on how best they can assist Fijians in the maritime islands during the pandemic. Dr. Luke Nasendra says it's critical that they are ready to provide immediate assistance and medical services to those on the islands when the need arises. Koroi Tandulala reports.
The head of FIMED says they want to ensure that every Fijians, including those in the maritime islands, are prioritized.
With the current capability of the MV Veti, that we can reach out to the maritime areas, and also we've shown that in the field hospital operations that we can help anywhere that where the need is, and the Ministry of Health and Government Shipping Services support, we should be able to be there for the people of Fiji, especially in the Maritime Division.
Dr. Nasendra says their primary focus is to provide necessary medical services to areas of concern.
Advantage with the Vivweti, the government medical boat, is it is already equipped, and we just have to load the some of the extra equipments, the staffs and other consumables to take with the team.
We talked about a few of the processes that we would like to have streamlined for the future. Even though we say this is a medical boat, it's not. We don't run it by ourselves. So when we need to use a boat, we still have to ask their ministry.
The Ministry of Health is working tirelessly to curb any possibility of COVID-19 transmission outside of Viti Levu and is trying to nip any emerging cases in the bud. Koroi Tandulala, FBC News.
And to our COVID-19 update for tonight, Fiji recorded 653 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending 8 a.m. yesterday. 462 cases are from the Western Division and 191 from the Central. The Health Ministry also recorded 8 new deaths for the period between August 14th and 18th. 5 were from the Central Division and 3 from the Western Division. Fiji has recorded 41,760 cases since April this year. There are now 21,304 active cases in isolation, with 19,883 recoveries in total. The COVID-19 death toll stands at 413. The vaccination campaign continues. As of yesterday, 539,451 people, or 92% of the population, has received the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 223,967 people, or 38.2%, have received the second dose. The 5 most vaccinated areas are Mba, Rewa, Nanunga and Naitasiri, which have achieved 100% first jab. Next is Nandi. And Ashwini from Singatoka is vaccinated. Are you planning on doing this soon? Up ahead, Rotuma takes precautionary measures. And efforts being rolled out to boost commercial agriculture. Welcome back. More than 1,000 people in Rotuma have been flocking to vaccination centers for the past few days to receive the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. District Officer Vatia Vasuda says they've reached about 85% of the targeted population. Details with Josiah Nanunga.
With the ongoing vaccination campaign on Rotuma Island, the district officer is optimistic that the 100% first dose target will be achieved by Friday. Now, health officials are visiting communities targeting the elderly who are unable to turn up into vaccination venues.
Carry out this awareness, especially to our elderly. The information of this vaccine.
The health minister has commended the response from villagers, which indicates their level of cooperation and understanding about COVID-19.
Very grateful that our fellow Fijians in Rotuma have taken the initiative to ensure that we abide by the public health safe measures, and also in terms of ensuring that that we push on with the vaccination.
Tight and strict protocols have also been imposed while offloading of cargo at the Oinafa Wharf to ensure none of the islanders come into contact with any crew members.
We mobilize with our chiefs and the Lotu and come up with a plan on how best we can maintain that status for them. It's COVID-free.
All essentials transferred from the cargo ship needs to be tightly sealed, as thorough fumigation will be carried out before distribution. Josiah Nanunga, FBC News.
The Fiji Crop and Livestock Council has highlighted there is hesitancy among some farmers from venturing into commercial agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture, through its Leave No One Behind policy, hopes to help farmers realize the benefits of going commercial. Koroi Tandulala reports.
The FCLC chair believes the COVID-19 pandemic has forced many leisure farmers realize the benefits of going commercial.
We need to be very clear that we have two farming systems running in this country. One of them is out-and-out commercial farming. The other, which government is keen to support, and for social reasons is very keen to support, is the Leave No One Behind policy.
Minister for Agriculture Dr. Mahendra Reddy says while they are working to improve the agriculture sector, they will also focus on sustainable growth.
Hence, we want to further expand this sector and utilize the abundantly available resources wisely, strategically, and for the betterment of all those who will be involved in an inclusive and sustainable growth model that we are now engaging in the agriculture sector.
The ministry has a land clearing program designed to lead idle land development and has a total provision of $500,000. Koroi Tandulala, FBC News.
There are currently 80 leases registered under the Land Bank, raking in $13.3 million since 2010. Minister for Lands and Mineral Resources Chone Usamate says there is an additional 16 lease offers and another 77 residential lots awaiting development completion. Usamate says the government anticipates anticipates receiving $6.2 million should these lots be sold at conservative prices.
For the 2020 and 21 financial year, revenue stood at $2.2 million in total. Of this, 609,000 was from state land leases, while 1,613,000 is revenue from Itoke land leases.
The Attorney General hit out at opposition members in Parliament yesterday, clarifying the government does not tell the Fiji Sun what to put on its front page. Aya Syed Kayum says he is baffled with the opposition's mightier-than-thou approach with respect to former Minister for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, Mereseni Vuniwanga. Syed Kayum also called out the opposition for not condemning incidents of similar nature that has happened in the past. The Attorney General also labelled this attempt by the opposition as politically expedient.
We don't really care what they are printing about somebody's personal life. The question is no longer in the party. Thirdly, to actually imply, and the hypocritical position that's been taken by the members of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji's newspaper articles are replete with what would one call affairs.
Coming up in world news, new COVID-19 cases continue to increase in New Zealand. And later in sports, swimmers stuck on land for training.
A number of restaurants in the Western Division are willing to undergo a thorough inspection and be given a stamp of approval in order to allow only a few customers to dine in at one time. Since April, there has been a restriction on dining for restaurants, and the owners say they can work with a local municipality on the requirements, with the Ministry of Health having the last say. Details with Felipe Naikaso.
While these restaurant owners understand the current COVID situation in the West, they are remaining hopeful that things may change as vaccination rates continue to increase.
I want to request government to allow restaurant owners to operate with at least 30% capacity by first week of September. You see now, we have gone over 90% on the first jab. And by August end, we may cross over 50% of our second jab, looking at the jab rate.
They also state that they will work closely with the Ministry of Health in order to implement strict COVID protocols for dining if the green light is given.
Capacity here is about 60. So, all I'm requesting is that as long as we are allowed at least 10 to 15 people at any one time in the same bubble, that's what we need.
Restaurant owners say that business has not been easy. However, with indications of a December restart for the tourism industry, they are also hoping for a few changes.
They do come in sometimes with their family and they want to sit down and eat. But once we tell them they're not allowed to, so they just take off, They prefer to sit down and eat.
According to the two owners, if there are positive changes, this will also allow them to bring back a few staff who have been laid off. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
BSP Financial Group Limited has announced a net profit after tax result of $260.74 million for the half year ended 30th June 2021, a 17.6% increase compared to the same period last year. BSP says easing of pandemic-related domestic restrictions combined with improved liquidity levels in Papua New Guinea and the offshore branches other than Fiji contributed to the improved results. Fiji has been more severely affected by Delta variant COVID-19 impacts and economic activity remains subdued. Here are the local exchange rates as set early this morning. The Fiji dollar continues to gain against our two major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, but lost ground against the other international currencies we cover. Declines across the board on the commodities market. Crude oil dropped a few dollars to close at $64 a barrel. Gold dropped to $1,776 per ounce, and silver closed down at $23.09 per ounce. And we now join Sharon from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money markets.
Good evening. The US dollar tipped from 4.5-month highs to trade little changed after the release of the US Federal Reserve's July meeting minutes failed to offer any relief to the markets. The minutes this morning showed there were sharp divisions on the tapering questions. It wasn't clear whether the Fed would be prepared to announce a tapering at the next meeting in September. The commodity-linked currencies such as the Aussie and Kiwi dollars trimmed losses against the greenback after the release of the minutes. The Aussie dollar was down 0.2%, while the New Zealand currency fell 0.4%. Meanwhile, data released during the day showed Australia's unemployment rate unexpectedly dropped in July to 4.6%, to a 12-year low. More than 2,000 jobs were added over the month, but hours worked fell by 0.2%. Data release was a bit of surprise to the market. However, market is of the view that August will likely see more obvious weakening as lockdowns widen and intensify in Australia. And that's all from your HFC Bank for now. Thank you for tuning in.
Amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, Fiji Pine Limited continues to assist landowning communities in terms of education, rural electrical wiring and house repair. Chief Executive Vimlesh Kumar says over $400,000 so far has been distributed recently under the Landowner Community Development Fund assistance.
This comprised of contribution towards electrical wiring for rural electrification projects amounting to $226,462. Education assistance amounting to $61,847, house repair following a cyclone amounting to $132,323, water project amounting to $8,906.
They've done exceptionally well to turn the companies around and make profit. And out of the profit that they are making, they are now sharing it with the resource owners in particular.
That is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, new deal to assist Fijians. Stay with us.
As it commemorates its 5th anniversary, the Sai Prema Foundation Fiji, in collaboration with the New Zealand High Commission, has announced a COVID relief initiative. The initiative will benefit over 60,000 Fijians across the country. Lina Rees reports the initiative will focus on mitigating the effects of COVID-19, decreasing poverty risks, and helping households and communities move towards early recovery from the pandemic.
To carry out the projects to support Fijian families, the foundation will be supporting a number of SMEs through the procurement of items for its national COVID relief initiative.
The Sai Prema Foundation has embarked on many projects over the past 5 years, and we're very humbled to have the opportunity to serve our nation. And on the occasion of our 5th anniversary, we didn't want to make it a celebration. We wanted to make an announcement.
New Zealand High Commissioner to Fiji, Jonathan Kerr, says the partnership will support food security and hygiene needs across the country.
The team at Sai Prema are here to share what we in New Zealand refer to as aroha, to share love and for service to their neighbours and their nation. This has always come through strongly in our discussions with Sai Prema Foundation.
Kerr adds that the $1.1 million partnership builds on the foundation's programs and will support many families. Sai Prema Foundation is one of 6 civil society organizations recently funded by the New Zealand government to support communities throughout the pandemic. Lina Rees, FBC News.
The COVID-19 pandemic has further widened inequality gaps. Individuals and families already living beneath the poverty line are the most affected. Christiana Uluwai reports.
The second wave of the pandemic escalated existing challenges further for Fijians residing in informal settlements when jobs were lost. For many of these residents, life now is a matter of survival.
Majority of the crops we plant get stolen, bele, cassava and taro. We kept on planting because we're surviving on it. I'm always concerned for my daughter.
Government assistance and the good heart of others is a lifeline for many of these families.
Those who are unemployed suffers the most, but when government assistance came, majority of the families have benefited. We are grateful as we are surviving.
Education of children in this community has been shelved with the inability to access mobile devices and internet connections. These families are hopeful for things to normalize at the soonest. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
And Jamie's here now with the latest in sports.
And good evening in sports tonight. Mangala turns down French contract to stick with Sevens. And another historical achievement for Krishna. This and more coming up. National Sevens gold medalist Tisireli Mangala is finally home, reunited with his family after almost 6 months. The 22-year-old arrived in Lambasa on Saturday and was in quarantine for 4 days before receiving the all clear to be with his family yesterday. Eleanor Turangibu has the story.
After a long 6-month journey, he is finally home. 22-year-old Sireli Mangala was reunited with his family yesterday as he left the friendly North Inn, where he was quarantined since arriving from Suva over the weekend.
We finally see him now after months of being apart. We were at peace knowing God will provide a way for us to see him, and here we are today.
The Seven Star was also greeted by healthcare workers, passerbys and fans who got to touch and feel the gold medal from Tokyo.
I have brought the gold medal. I have achieved it. I want to thank all the rugby clubs that I was a part of. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have this gold.
Even villagers were waiting by the roadside.
We are really happy. We had to do something for him in the little time we were given because of his achievement.
We are so happy. We have only seen the gold medal on TV, but today we have seen Mangala and also touched the medal.
Mangala then headed for the chiefly village of Nanduri for a sebu-sebu to the Tuimadhuatara to William Katunibere, where he was welcomed and acknowledged for his achievement.
We've come to feel what an Olympic medal is like. Feeling that it's the weight, you know, how you have to get through to get that. You know, even though he's wearing that, but everybody was really proud, and yeah, I'm very proud today.
Last night, the family held a Thanksgiving service at their home in Dalai Lambasa, celebrating his achievement and giving the glory back to God. Eleanor Turangeview, FBC Sports.
Meanwhile, Mangala has turned down a contract to play for French club Bayern. Speaking to the media following his clearance from quarantine in Lambasa yesterday, Mangala says before he was offered the contract, he had plans to be part of the Sevens team to the World Cup next year. Mangala was reported to have signed for Bayern prior to the Tokyo Olympic Games. He says he's been drafted to the national side by Fiji Rugby Union to prepare for next year's Sevens World Cup to be held in Cape Town, South Africa. The youngster was approached by the French club after he was introduced to the world at the Oceania Sevens in Australia in June. Fiji-born former All Black Sevens winger Joe Rabobo also plays for Bayern. It was an emotional day for Fiji's first Olympic Games gold medalist winning captain, Hosea Kolinisau, when Jerry Tuwai led the national side to glory in Tokyo. Kolinisau, who is preparing for the Rugby Town Sevens in Denver, USA, says he's also very proud to see the Fijiana progress so much for themselves and for women's rugby at home. Aquila Dama has more.
A million smiles! It was this night in Rio, Brazil 5 years ago that inspired a nation and aspiring players. And the man who led them is thankful they did something which pushed these Olympians.
Yeah, it's proud, emotional, yeah. And you know, young boys and what happened in Fiji. Yeah. But it makes me immensely proud because we created a legacy. Absolutely. Now youngsters in Fiji know that they can win gold medals.
Apart from the Fiji Sevens, Kolinisau believes many young girls in the country would be taking up rugby soon because of these history makers.
You know, we come from culture before. It was a taboo for women to play rugby, but now it's changing a lot, and the girls winning bronze medal. I think a lot of girls will be switching sports in Fiji, and a lot of parents, they see what the girls can achieve.
Fijiana captain Rusila Nangasau, whose mentor is Kazem the Black Pearl Manasa Mbari, says if the man can do it, the women can too.
For now, women here in Fiji, we just want to tell everybody that we can be one day standing in the podium, and just like the boys, we're lifting the cup and getting that gold medal back.
The women's player base in the country is expected to increase in the new season thanks to Nangasau and the Fijiana's achievement. Aquila Dama, FBC Sports.
Inosi Matea grew up a healthy boy living a normal life, but that all changed when he was diagnosed with bone cancer at the age of 11 and lost his left leg. Despite this, the Kandavu native continued to enjoy life, playing at different sports before falling in love with javelin. Now Matea is on his way to represent Fiji at the Tokyo Paralympic Games at the end of the month. Karlaini Tavi with this report.
Since taking up athletics in 2011, Matea has excelled in various disciplines but took the risk to focus entirely on javelin.
So I tried out shot put, I've tried out discus, and I've tried out hammer throw, and javelin. And out of all of those four events. I kind of did very well in javelin throwing.
Like many para-athletes, Matea has had his fair share of challenges.
I just kind of have a lot of patience in me and try to conquer every hard obstacle around me.
With the right support and motivation, Coach Freddie Fatiyaki believes our two para-athletes will be able to achieve their goal.
Yes, from our side, we just have to really give him that motivation and that self-belief to compete at that level with the elite athletes that we have in his category.
Iosefo Rakesa and Matea will depart tomorrow for the Tokyo Paralympics, which starts next Tuesday. Karleni Tavi, FBC Sports.
Roy Krishna's ATK Mohan Bagan began its AFC Cup campaign in style as it cruised to a commanding 2-0 win over Bengaluru FC last night. And just as last season, Krishna was back scoring for his club, also becoming the first Fijian to ever feature and score in the AFC Cup. Here are the goals. National swimmers may have to improvise on their training programs a bit longer. With pools still closed, swimmers are left with no choice but to do land training and rely on private pools. As Venina Rakautonga reports, the national swimmers are currently vying for a spot in the World Swimming Championship in December.
Land training is the most go-to option for most of these water babies.
I believe some are doing training, land-based training with gym equipment that we had been sponsored by last year, and that was bought for us. And so we've got a set in the West and a set here in Suva where I believe some of the swimmers have started making use of those gym sets.
Chia says the Federation is mapping out plans to get swimmers together.
We haven't gotten down to the detailed thing where either they go at a certain time, one person or two person that stays in a particular bubble go at a certain time and the others go at another time.
Olympian Cheyenne Rover is one of the athletes vying for a spot at the Worlds.
Pool isn't open, obviously, and you know, that's huge. That's something that we need to prepare. So hopefully we can get access to that or get out of Fiji and access to a pool to help us prepare.
The 15th FINA World Swimming Championship will be hosted by Abu Dhabi from the 16th to 21st December. Venina Rakautonga, FBC Sports.
In play of the day, Marseille threw away a 2-0 lead to draw 2-2 with Bordeaux in the French Football League of the weekend. But all eyes were again on Dimitri Payet, who netted once again and now has 3 goals to his name after 2 rounds. In our quirky sport of the day, mustache growing. Yes, you heard that right, and apparently it is a sport filled with drama, tactic and scandal. This might be something Chuta Wainingolo could take up in addition to rugby. That's it from sports tonight. Coming up in Weird and Wonderful, the woman with an extraordinary collection of tins. Find out more after the break.
Fine and cool conditions prevailed over most places today. In the west, mostly fine, and it will be cool tonight. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, sunny with intervals of clouds. In the north, again a mixture of sun and cloudy conditions. The locations we are checking out tonight are Rakiraki, Lambasa and Suva. All had a cool feeling with humidity quite low. Moderate to rough seas turning to the tides. The next high tide is at 4:11 a.m. Sunrise is at 6:22. For tomorrow, cloudy periods with brief showers over the southeastern parts and the interior of the larger islands. The outlook for Saturday is very much similar conditions. And the staff of Plantation Island Resort took this underwater shot after getting 100% double vaccination. In Fijian Pulse, we ask, have you been getting any physical exercise during this lockdown?
We have time. We are before 6 at home. Take our time to exercise and be healthy, as age is catching now.
Most people at my age would disregard physical activity, but I still do it to keep myself fit.
We knock off around 4 o'clock, so we go home, get fresh, and then have some few exercises.
The colourful tins piled high around Belgian collector Yvette Dardenne used to contain goods ranging from chocolates, toffees, coffee and rice to tobacco, talc and shoe polish, and come from as far away as India. Recapping our main stories, Fiji stops USP funding. Our elderly are hesitant, says Ministry of Health, and FEMAT working on maritime plans. For these stories and others, tune in to our sister station Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we are asking, should commercial banks relook at lending rates? Visit our FBC News website to take part. And remember to send us newsworthy pictures and videos, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via social media. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports, and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.